Hello, and thank you for tuning in to the first episode of Communicate Responsibly. Hopefully, it won't be the last episode. I'm Brian Farr, and I am starting this podcast because I feel like I have to do something. And if you feel the same way, then this is the place for you. Why communicate responsibly? For me, I do not claim to be a perfect communicator. It is something that I am always working on and will continue to work on. I have, however, over the years, learned a lot about communication, and I would like to share those things with you folks and the world. So I guess that is the mission of this podcast, to save the world. Nothing too big in scope. I've always had that heart to help. I've always had delusions, maybe, that one person, two people, a few people can make a change in the world. And as I've gotten gray and older, to me, it seems like communication really is a significant tool to do this. So I've been thinking over this idea for a while to start up a podcast, and it seemed really significant to do it today on Martin Luther King Day. I've been listening and reading and studying up on some things that Dr. King did, and it really stands out to me what excellent isn't even enough of a word. What a super fantastic, way before his time communicator Martin Luther King was. In listening to his speeches, the language he uses is so clearly evident of how educated he was. His passion for not just civil rights, but I think equal rights, equality for all, and his emphasis on love has been really compelling to me. So I want to read something, a quote from Dr. King. I have my two screens up here, so hopefully that will not distract you too much. But here's a quote. People fail to get along because they fear each other. They fear each other because they don't know each other. They don't know each other because they have not communicated with each other. Martin Luther King Jr. How true. And today, in 2026, with all the technology, with all the advancements, with all the knowledge that we have, the irony to me is that we still fail to communicate with each other effectively. So my plan for the podcast is to do this for a year. I will try to grind one of these out each week. I have a 52-week summary and a structure that I hope to follow. I'll bring in some people to talk to that I see as mentors of great communication along the way, my wife being one of them. She has been with me. We've been married since 1999. My children, also great communicators. I work in the field of substance use disorders. I have worked there for, it's got to be 27 years. And I am a person in long-term recovery myself for 29 years. Again, I have found that communication in those roles as a person in recovery and as a counselor trying to help other people in recovery, communication is the biggest tool. It is the hammer in your tool bag, and we use it all the time. So I want to share some of those things with you folks who are interested. I also want to continue to learn and communicate myself along this road. And this week, the main thing that I want people to think about, if this sounds like it's interesting to you, is communication as a habit. I've met people who say, wow, you're a really good communicator, or I've met people who I think communicate very well. We listen to speeches by someone like Dr. King and say, whoa, that was amazing. I mean, the tenor of his voice, the as I talked about before, the passion he had for what he was saying, the words that he chose. And people seem to think that that's one of those skills that you either have or you do not have. I have not found that to be true. As much as I have to learn about communication now, when I was younger, I was a horrible, horrible communicator. And at the time, I do not think I would have recognized that. For me, communication, this may be the good news, it may be the bad news, it's a habit. And that's good news because you can change habits. It might be bad news because you may not want to change that habit. Or maybe you haven't even recognized the part of the habit that you have that you need to change when it comes to talking and listening and communicating with people. To go a little bit deeper into that, I'd like you to think about, you can think about this now, you can think about it over the next week. Where did you learn to communicate? Who taught you talking and listening, how to be heard, how to be seen, how to be understood? For most people, that answer would be the people that raised you. And we're not here to find fault or throw shade on the people that raised you. They knew what they knew. Certainly, communication, language, skills, and importance of listening has changed along the way. I grew up in the 1970s and then 1980s, but I remember specifically the old saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That was a horrible saying. That was completely untrue. The power that words have, I have found in my own life, a word can really stick. A word can really leave a scar. It can be like a sliver that just sticks in there for a long time, even more so than sticks and stones, maybe. So that's just one example of over time we've learned the power that words have. And it's shocking to me where we're at now when you look at technology, when you look at media, when you look at the words people are using in social conversations or out on the streets to protest or stand up for their rights. There's a lot of anger in those words. And I'm not sure that the words that are being used are particularly effective. If we go back to Martin Luther King, one of the things he emphasized so much was coming from a loving place. Hatred cannot drive out hatred. Only love can do that. It's another Martin Luther King quote that I really think is important. So as you look at who taught you how to communicate, maybe ask yourself, did I pick up some of that? And if I did, what parts of that are still working for me? I know many people, and I am one of them, who I will hear my father's words come out of my mouth sometimes. And my mother's words. Those people that raised me were the people who downloaded information and skills inside of me of how to communicate, how to be seen and heard in the world. And many of those things were strengths, and some of those things just don't work anymore for me in 2026 or wherever it's at. To be more specific, ask yourself, when someone is talking to me, what is my purpose in listening? And a lot of the times, some general notes I have over here on screen too, people listen to respond. So it's almost like a tennis match, or pickleball would be, I guess, the more common thing now. So I'm listening to you, but I'm also preparing my response. How can I be fully present in the moment if I'm thinking about what I'm going to say? Another reason, very common, that people listen is to correct somebody. I have a background as a teacher and a counselor. So correcting people, especially when they're wrong, is a really big thing that people do when they are listening. So maybe I'm listening and I'm just waiting for you to get done so I can correct you. Another thing that happens when we listen is we are getting ready to defend our point of view. So somebody cares enough and trusts you enough to point out something to you, and your reaction is to defend that in yourself rather than to take a look at it or make sure that person who trusted you and cares enough about you understands that you heard what they said, and maybe even though it's not what you wanted to hear, you can acknowledge it's what you need to hear. So a lot of people listen to defend. And then here is the last one, and these are just general ideas. Maybe you listen with a different kind of intent in your mind or reaction in your mind, but a lot of people listen to fix. So I am a fixer by nature, teacher, counselor. I want to fix the problem. Here is a very important point that I still continue to learn. When people discuss problems, pain, things that they are going through, they're not always discussing it with me or you in order to find a fix. Period. They may just want to have somebody hear them. They may just want to have somebody validate them. And even if they're looking for a fix or a solution to the problem, empowering them to find the solution, to get through that situation, or to fix the problem themselves is always going to be more powerful than you going in and fixing things for them. As a substance use disorder counselor and person in recovery, I've heard the term enable more times than I would like to. Also codependency. And these are all issues and things we could talk about in terms of communication over these next 52 weeks. Hopefully you will bear with me. But in these beginning stages, what I really would invite you, maybe challenge you to do, is look at the habits you have in your own means of conversation, communication, speaking, listening, being present. Look for your strengths. And by the next time you come back, have some strengths written down. Here are things I feel I'm good at. And then along with that, write down some things that you would like to change. Again, communication is habitual. It's the good news. You may not want to hear it right now, but communication is something people can change. It's why I'm doing this. I have changed a lot of things. I want to continue to change my communication. I will tell you on this first episode, my biggest goal, where I'm at with change right now, would be to continue to stay curious about other people, especially those that I don't understand. I could say I don't believe in the things they believe in because we're in a pressure cooker of a world right now. So, okay, I don't believe in the things they believe in, but am I curious to understand where they're coming from? Or do I just want to fix them or tell them they're wrong? Or worse yet, use some of that hostile, ineffective language because hatred will never drive out hatred. Only love will do that. Looking over my notes, I just want to make sure that I've hit everything that I was talking about. To be more specific, here are some habits you may want to just think about. How often do you use profanity? It's amazing to me how profanity has slipped into professional work. And again, I'm not saying that I never use profanity. I like to have fun with people. I like to joke around. I think I'm pretty good at the dad jokes. Those are more corny than profane. But when we see profanity move into the professional environment, or when we see it move into the media or common language, there's a truth I believe in, I didn't come up with it, that as soon as someone uses profanity, it turns up the heat. If we're having a discussion and I drop an F-bomb, immediately I've added something to the conversation. I've added some hot spices that weren't in that recipe before. And the more we see profanity come out, I think the hotter people's feelings and the temperature of discourse is becoming. I was in New York City just this week doing a training as part of my job. And just walking down the streets and seeing all of the gift shops, I was amazed at how often the F word is used on t-shirts there. It's thrown around indiscriminately. And it's become part of acceptable language. It's angry language. So that's one kind of thing maybe to look at. Boy, yeah, I do use expletives a lot. Maybe I'm angry. Maybe I'm defensive. Do you interrupt people when they are speaking? That's a big one. Or do you let them finish? Do you go silent? I'm not going to respond to you at all. That is one that I am guilty of. I am a people pleaser by nature. I would rather back off and not respond to someone than add that spice in there. I'm still working on it. And in terms of defensiveness, when do I explain my point of view to someone rather than ask them? So one of the things I have found really, really helpful is reflection. To just reflect what someone has said to me to make sure I have it right. A reflection is usually a question, even though it ends in a period. But a reflection is a way of I'm not going to defend myself. I'm going to ask you for your thoughts and your meaning in what you said to me. Those are all things you may want to look over this next few days. And when we come back in, I can kind of see where you're at. So remember, you're looking for your strengths. What are you good at as a communicator? What things do you want to work at? Here are some triggers to be careful of. When might you go back to those ineffective ways of communication that you wanted to change? When you're afraid, when you're ashamed, when you're angry. I'll throw angry in there. Anger, for me, I have a long, long relationship with anger. It was always a cover emotion. There's usually something underneath it. For me, it's fear. But when we have one of those basic, strong feelings coming up, of course, we're going to default to the manner of communication that is most known to us, even if we know it's not effective. Still happens to me when I am driving out on the highway and someone dares to think it's NASCAR out there. I'm not a real fast driver. But when people go by, I get afraid of what that driving may do, and I have a reaction to it. Look for that. The only way you're going to get better or change these things, and I shouldn't even say better, the only way your communication is going to become more effective is to increase your awareness of what's working and what's not working, and to practice those things that are not working effectively anymore for you. Hopefully that's good news, and hopefully you're not overwhelmed with the number of things that you feel like you have to do. Because for me, it's definitely been a journey. It's been small things. And communication is something you will be invited to practice every single day. So you'll have a lot of time to practice these things. And also to maybe go back, we didn't get into this today, but we will. If I do step on someone's toes, or I use an old behavior, when I tap into my recovery program as a person in recovery from substance use disorders, you have to back up sometimes and make an amends for that. And that's a real important thing to do with communication too. Staying humble and letting people know you're not perfect, but you're trying, and that you have a desire to put the relationship ahead of being right. Whew, that's powerful stuff. That's a lot for today. I have 21 minutes here, just learning to use this camera and my microphone. So hopefully you enjoyed this, and hopefully you'll come back. Please, you can leave some comments. You can ask some questions. I can answer those back and forth. I have lots of books and resources we're going to get into, but I didn't want to throw too much at you this first week. If you saw some shadows or heard some tweeting, that's because I have bird feeders right there at my window. And I hope that wasn't too distracting either, because I enjoy those. That's part of what gets my serotonin and dopamine levels up. So thank you, folks. I think subscribing is something that's important. So if you can do that, I'm told that's a good thing to do. And I will see you hopefully next week. Enjoy this journey of improving your communication. You can do it responsibly. Take care.